Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, Desimcha. Siva, Gedola, Leo, 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 Desimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Siva Gedola, Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Desimcha. Someone smile. Be the reason someone smile. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Give us Michael, give us Michael, give us Michael, give a smile. Give us Michael, give us Michael, be the reason someone smiles. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Leo Desimcha. Siva Gedola, Leo Desimcha.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha וקיים שהחזרת בי נשמתי בחמלה רבה אמונתך
Shabbos, Shabbos,
People would say to me, how can you be a senator and observe Shabbat? And I said, and I really meant it, I don't think I could be a senator and not observe Shabbat.
Ay, 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 good Shabbos. Ay, 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 Shabbos HaChodesh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
Everyone together, al divrei Torah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
Hareini mikabel.
Hareini mikabel alay mitzvat aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
Torah tziva lanu Moshe.
Ay Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov. Torah tziva lanu Moshe morasha keilat Yaakov.
And that takes us to the giving of tzedakah. We are giving extra for
Put it
Shabbat.
in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, the tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
All right, fantastic. Good job, everybody. All right, next on our list, the Shema. Right hand over your eyes, please.
שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד שמע ישראל השם אלוקינו השם אחד
Shahakal niyeh b'devoroi, shakal niyeh b'devoroi.
All right, and that brings us to breakfast. Coffee and yogurt. Now, I have a vanilla yogurt, but I put some cocoa powder and a little bit of milk into it. And so I made a chocolate yogurt. I know, creative, right? All right, Shahakol. Are you ready? Borachato adinoi lehina melech haolam Shahakol nihiya bidvaroi.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
All right. All right, it's very good, but it makes a big mess. Let's keep that in mind. All right. It is Friday. And because it's Friday, we do 2 minutes for
A big buzzword these days is cancel culture. If somebody doesn't agree with the way I think it should be socially acceptable, we shut them down and cancel them. Well, would you believe that the Torah talks about this concept in our Parsha? When we speak about the signs that a kosher animal has to have, we know it has to chew its cud and have split hooves. The Torah lists 3 animals that while they chew their cud, they do not have split hooves, and those are the camel, the shafan, and the arneves, which is a hare. But if you look closely at the words, it's very interesting how it's set out. When we speak about the camel, we say, Uparsa einana mafris, and its hooves are not split, it's talking in present tense. When we speak about the shafan, we say, Uparsa lo yafris, we're talking in future tense that its hooves are not split. And finally, when we speak about the hare, we say, Uparsa lo hifrisa, it's not previously split, talking in past tense. So first present, then future, then past. What's going on? We're talking about the same issue with 3 animals. Why do we say it differently for each? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter tells us that this is not just talking to us about food that doesn't agree with us spiritually. It's talking about people that don't agree with us too. When there are people that we want to cancel and shut them down because we don't really agree with their perspective and we think that they're doing something wrong, 1 second. Let's take a tip from what the Torah just said. Let's look at their past. What brought them to this point? What shaped their decision making? And what experience did they have in their life? And let's look at their future. What potential do they have? And what do we see that maybe they could become? Okay, you've got their past, you got their future, now look at their present. When you take the full picture of the person and understand everything about them, now you can have a conversation of maybe the areas that you disagree. So while cancel culture might tell you to shut somebody down, our culture tells us, first get the full picture and then have a conversation. Have a great Shabbos.
There you go. Cancel culture in Torah. All right. Let me get to it. Candle lighting, 7:07 p.m. On the 26th day of Adar, Pope Innocent IV issued a an order burning the Talmud. Hold on one second. We are having an earthquake. What? Yeah. We had an earthquake. You heard it here first on Breakfast with Elli. We had an earthquake. That is so cool. On the 26th day, I hope everybody's all right. On the 26th day of Adar in the year 1677, the Jewish community of Newport, Rhode Island bought land for a cemetery. The first property purchase in the United States by a Jewish congregation. 15 Jewish families emigrated from South America to what was to become the United States in 1658. Those families were of Sephardic lineage and settled together in Newport, Rhode Island, where they established a Jewish congregation. For many years, they held prayer services in private homes. When the need arose for a Jewish cemetery, they purchased a piece of land. This was the very first piece of land in the colonies owned by a Jewish congregation. In this cemetery are buried many of the early members of this congregation, still maintained by the Jewish community today. On Shabbos, King Tzidkiyahu, the last king of Judah, died in captivity in Babylon. The king of Austria granted favorable rights to the Jews in 1255. Jews were expelled from Prague in 1745. Right of residency granted to Jews in Hungary in 1783, and it goes on. It absolutely goes on. There we go. All right, that is Friday's news. All right, it is Parshas HaChodesh on the Shabbos that falls before the first of Nisan. A special reading called HaChodesh is added to the regular Shabbos Torah reading. It recounts Hashem's historic communication to Moshe in Egypt on the first day of Nisan, 2 weeks before the Exodus, regarding the Jewish calendar. We also bless the new month of Nisan. We also, before we pronounce the blessing, we make sure to mention the Molad. The Molad is the new moon, and as we said, the Molad will be on Monday, all right, at 10:57 p.m. Ah, wow. Yeah, we're all kind of excited over here because we had an earthquake. All right, I'm sure you'll discover more about that very soon. You know, when a non-Jewish person goes into a Jewish store, funny things can happen. And that's obviously not it. That is obviously not what I was talking about. But my hard drive is being really, really slow this morning. Let's see, what can I do about this? Not a whole lot, huh? All right. Well, then I'm going to tell you about this instead and hope that this video is here. No? unresponsive today. All right. We will move on to HaYom Yom.
היום הזה הוא זמן שמחתנו.
Some people argue that traditional Judaism marginalizes the role of women. Today's HaYom Yom sets the record straight. All that is sacred to the Jewish people and fundamental to the house of Israel was entrusted by Hashem in the hands of women. They are the ones that are responsible, says today's HaYom Yom. It is women who are responsible for establishing, and they're responsible for our future, for the next generation, for seeing to it that there is a new generation of Jewish people who observe mitzvahs, who observe kashrus, who observe Shabbos. This then is the meaning. This is not a new idea. This is a very old idea. This is the meaning of the words of King Solomon when he says in Mishlei, Chachmos Nashim Bansa Beisa. The wisdom of women, with wisdom do women construct their home. So the role of the Jewish woman who sees to it that her family is educated in the proper way, that woman, the role of that woman is not just critical in Beisa, in the building of her own home, the home of her family. Her role is critical in Beisa, in building the home for the entire house of Israel.
Excuse me. Still trying to get this new HaYom Yom up.
I once got a telephone call from somebody who introduced himself as a non-Jew who wished to convert to become Jewish. In the course of the conversation, he mentioned that he was married and his wife was not very into this. She was not very happy about his interests in the Jewish faith. And I found myself relaying over the phone to this fellow the HaYom Yom of today. I said to him, if you've studied the Torah, if you've studied the Bible, then you may be familiar with the story of Nadav and Avihu, two of the sons of Aaron HaKohen, the high priest. On the day that the Mishkan, the traveling home for Hashem, was established in the desert, each of these two sons was overcome with this tremendous desire, this passion to become close, to become one with Hashem. So they entered the Mishkan, they entered the house of Hashem in a manner that was unauthorized, and it didn't end very well. This day of celebration became a day of mourning. It was the funeral for Nadav and Avihu. What did Nadav and Avihu do wrong? Their intentions were extremely noble. What could be more noble than the desire to become close to or to become one with Hashem. There was a very important factor that was missing. They failed to ask themselves the question, is the timing and the manner in which I'm going to become close to Hashem, am I doing this in a way that Hashem wants me to do it? So it's great to have very noble desires, but you also have to ask yourself, is this course of action the course of action that Hashem wants from me? This is not just about you. It's great that you want to become a Jew, but did you ask yourself the question, what type of behavior does Hashem want for me? It's clear, I said to this fellow, that you believe in God, and I can hear over the telephone line your sincere desire to become close to the God that you believe in, to become close to Hashem. But that's not enough. That's a good starting point. The next step is you have to ask yourself the question, how does that Hashem that I believe in want me to behave? So getting involved, becoming engaged in Jewish activism is very important. The intention to do something wonderful for Hashem or do something wonderful for the Jewish community, it's very noble to have those fantastic intentions. It's a great first step. But before you actually roll up your sleeves and start doing the work, you first have to ask yourself that very, very critical question. How does Hashem want me to behave?
And how does Hashem want you to behave? Well, we have a Torah that teaches us that. All right, 60 days of Simcha for the month of Adar. Days 56 and 57. Comes to a close.
Adar Marbim B'Simcha, happy thoughts. We know the Alter Rebbe writes in the beginning of Tanya, take for example the Midah of Chesed, being kind. So the Alter Rebbe says, kindness is great. But the question is, what's the source of the kindness? The kindness could be because you really want to be kind to somebody, or because you have ulterior motives. For ego trips, you feel good about it, not necessarily because of the other person. However, when it comes to Simcha, the Beis Aaron says that any Simcha is coming from a holy place. There's no such thing as a bad happiness. Happiness is holy. So you see that as long as a person's b'simcha, you're connected to Kedusha, you connect to Hashem, and you connect to a very, very holy place. Let's hope and pray we continue with our simcha every day, because as long as we're simcha, we are connected to Kedusha, we are connected to Hashem, we are connected to holiness. Have a happy HaChodesh Adar, Mshenichnas Adar, continue Marbim b'simcha. Welcome to Mshenichnas Adar Marbim b'simcha. So there's a powerful teaching from the holy rabbis that say as follows, that if you have a choice to be a simple person but be happy, or to be a holy person, pray, study, meditate, but you're going to be sad, it's better to be a simple person and be happy rather than to be someone that has all these high levels and you're sad. So you see, simcha is key. So let's hope and pray we continue with Chodesh Adar of Marbim B'Simcha, because simcha is key to having the greatest relationship with Hashem.
At the hospital bed, the doctor came running in. Miriam, do you know his blood type? If we can know his blood type, we can save him. But if we don't get his blood type, Irving's going to pass away. She said she didn't know his blood type, and she went to give him hugs, and he died. At the eulogy, she said Irving was such a caring guy. All he cared about was Miriam and how she does. Matter of fact, his last breaths, he gave her instructions for life. Be positive, be positive, be positive.
That's silly. That's so silly. Right, last night, in the spirit of Simcha for Adar, we went and saw Tommy at the Nederlander Theater, the Who's Tommy. And I got to tell you, it was absolutely glorious. A wonderful cast, including Aladdin himself, Adam Jacobs, and the young man who played Tommy, the older Tommy, Ali Luis Burzgui, something like that. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. And of course, I got my obligatory magnet and pin set, because we can't just have one pin anymore. We've got to have a myriad of pins. But it was glorious. It was loud. It was delicious. And it was everything that it was supposed to be. So we're kind of thrilled that we got to experience that. If you get a chance, go see it, because it's really, 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 really good. Again, we really, really enjoyed it. So Tommy at the Nederlander Theater. I realized that I've spent more time in the Nederlander Theater than any other theater, because I used to go see Rent, and I kind of went for the lottery, and I kind of always won. It was kind of weird. I figured that the guy that was doing the bucket where the drawings were was doing it on purpose to let me win. I don't know. I don't know how to tell these things, but it was truly a glorious time at the Nederlander last night. And again, if you can get there and see it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, because it's a great show. All right, it has been confirmed. We had a magnitude 4.8 earthquake just now, a few minutes ago, which is pretty big on the earthquake scale. All right, and now a word from our sponsors.
PestProRidall.com. PestProRidall.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidall.com.
Tarzane Group. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to TarzanGroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565. And order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at TarzanGroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications, logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and you can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Elli when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Siva Lanu Moshe.
All right, patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithelli.live/newcomputer if you would like to help us and fix whatever this crap is over here that's going on. Excuse me, I said a bad word. Because, you know, I can't continue when things are just so difficult with the computer. It's just kind of weird. All right, it has been confirmed. We had a 4.8 magnitude earthquake here in New York It was actually centered in Tewksbury, New Jersey. 4.8 is a pretty big earthquake, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls and others. 20 years living in New York, and I've never felt an earthquake. Hurricanes? Yes. Earthquakes? No. But there you have it. A magnitude 4.8 earthquake felt in the entire tri-state area. More about this as it comes in. I don't have much more to tell you about it at this point, but here's part 2 of Rabbi Sachs' Covenant and Conversation.
And those times and places require absolute obedience, equally, at all times in all places. But there is, we believe, no answer that applies to all time and all places. That's why philosophy can't and never will understand the apparent contradiction between divine creation and human free will, or between divine presence and the empirical world in which we reflect, choose, and act. Jewish thought is counter-philosophical. It insists that truths are embodied precisely in particular times and places. There are holy times. The 7th day, the 7th month, the 7th year, and the end of 7 septennial cycles, namely the Yovel, the Jubilee. Then there are holy people, the children of Israel as a whole, within them the Levi'im, within the Levi'im the Kohanim. And there's holy space, Israel, and within that Jerusalem, and within that the temple. In the desert there were the Mishkan, the holy, and the Holy of Holies. The holy is that point of time and space in which the presence of God is encountered by tzimtzum, self-renunciation, but this time on the part of humankind. Just as God makes space for man by an act of self-limitation, so we make space for God by an act of self-limitation. The holy is where God is experienced as an absolute presence. Not accidentally, but essentially, this can only take place through total renunciation of human will and initiative. That's not because God doesn't value human will and initiative. To the contrary, He empowered us to use them to become His partners in the work of creation. However, to be true to God's purposes, there have to be times and places at which humanity experiences the reality of the divine, and those times and places require absolute obedience. The most fundamental mistake, the mistake of Nadav and Avihu, is to take the powers that belong to man's encounter with the world and apply them to man's encounter with the divine. Had Nadav and Avihu used their own initiative to fight evil and injustice, they would have been heroes. But because they used their own initiative in the arena of the holy, the place and time reserved for God, that was their mistake. They asserted their own presence into the absolute presence of God. And that is a contradiction in terms. That is why they died. We err if we think of God as capricious, jealous, angry. That was a myth spread by early Christianity in an attempt to define itself as the religion of love, superseding what they called the cruel, harsh, retributive God of what they called the Old Testament. When the Torah itself uses such language, it's because it's speaking in the language of mankind, that is to say, in terms people will understand. In truth, Tanakh is a love story through and through, the passionate love of the Creator for His creatures that survives all the disappointments and betrayals of human history. God needs us to encounter Him, not because He needs mankind, but because we need Him. If civilization is to be guided by love, justice, and respect for the integrity of creation, there must be moments in which we leave the I behind and encounter the fullness of divine being in all its glory. That is the function of the holy, the point at which the I am is silent, in the overwhelming presence of there is. That's what Nadav and Avihu forgot, that to enter holy space or time requires total humility, total renunciation of human initiative and desire. The significance of this fact cannot be overestimated. When we confuse God's will with our will, we turn the holy, the source of life, into something unholy and a source of death. The classic example of this is holy war, jihad, crusade, investing imperialism, the desire to rule over other people, with the cloak of sanctity, as if conquest and forced conversion were God's will. The story of Nadav and Avihu reminds us yet again of the warning first spelled out in the days of Cain and Abel. The very first recorded act of worship led to the first murder. Like nuclear fission, worship generates power which can be benign, but it can also be profoundly dangerous. The episode of Nadav and Avihu is written in 3 kinds of fire. First, there's the fire from heaven. As it says, fire came forth from before God. That was the fire of favor. It consumed the burnt offering and consummated the service of the sanctuary. Then came the unauthorized fire offered by the 2 sons, Nadav and Avihu. And then came the counter fire from heaven, the fire that came forth from before God and consumed Nadav and Avihu so that they died. The message is simple and intensely serious. Religion isn't what the European Enlightenment thought it would become: mute, marginal, and mild. It is fire. And like fire, it warms, but it also burns, and we must be the guardians of the flame.
And that was pretty wonderful. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. Chumash and Rashi with Rabbi Avtson is up next. And here we go. All right. Parsha point with Rabbi Avtze.
Parsha points Shemini for Friday. Our Parsha begins with the Beyond the Routine. If you forgot, go back to Sunday's Parsha points. Do not collect $200. And here we go again with the kosher laws. How do we sustain our divinity through the subtle distinctions between the pure and the impure? Can't see the difference? Why is one thing kosher and his zoo buddy isn't? That's the higher than nature right there. The beyond the rational, which implants godliness in our lives. Sustain that, and your relationship is unshakable. Parsha points Shemini for Shabbos. Eating is gross. That's why people keep their mouth closed when they eat. It's also humiliating. Here we are, the most elite of all of creation, and take away my lunchbox and I am hangry. Eating reminds us of our weaknesses, our dependence on lesser entities, animals for burgers. Got to eat your veggies, which grow in the soil. And yet, we take those ingredients. They energize us. They enable us to do mitzvah actions. And thus, we elevate the steak and potatoes in the farm they grew in to become godly partners. Kosher food is step one in making the world a godly place.
All right. Fantastic. I love it. That takes us to Shnayim Yomi for today.
Fifth Aliyah, Pasuk says, the first Pasuk in the fifth Aliyah, Ve'et se'ira chatat, darosh darash Moshe v'hine soraf, v'yitzof al Elazar v'al Itamar b'nei Aharon lemor. As we learned yesterday, the three chataot that were brought, two of them were eaten. The third one, which is referring to the Korban Chatat Musaf and Rosh Chodesh, it says, Ve'et se'ira chatat, Moshe Rabbeinu looked into it, v'hine soraf, and it was burnt. Moshe Rabbeinu told him to eat the Korbanot. And instead of eating all of them, Aliyah Shvi, the seventh Aliyah. Yesterday's Aliyah, the latter part of yesterday's Aliyah, which we did not discuss in yesterday's introduction, was regarding the dinim, the laws of Tumah, V'Tahara, spiritual contamination, let's call it, which if one of the dead animals, for example, touch a kli, touch a vessel, it makes it tameh. Now, this aliyah is a continuation regarding those halachot of Tumah V'Tahara, and it goes more into detail. And that is that even though there's a lot of dinim, many details to these halachot, we'll just mention one or 2 points. And that is that, for example, if you have one of the animals discussed in the last aliyah, it dies. Nevela, it dies, it becomes tameh. And it touches a vessel. It makes the vessel tameh. However, it will make a difference what type of vessel it is, depending on how the tum'ah attracts it. If it's a metal kli, if it's a metal vessel, so then if the tum'ah, if the animal, which is tameh, touches it, so whether it touches it from the outside, or whether it touches it from the inside of the kli, no matter what, it comes in contact with the vessel, it makes it tameh. However, if it's an earthenware kli, if it's kli cheres, so then the halachot are different. When it comes to kli cheres, if a behemah that's dead, or any type of animal, sheretz, or whatever it is, that's tameh, avatumah, touches it while it's dead, kli, if it's earthenware, so if it touches from the outside of the kli, the outside of the vessel, so then it remains tahor, because the kli cheres cannot become tameh from the outside. Kli cheres can only become tameh from the inside. Not only that, another chidush of an earthenware vessel is that it can become tameh from its airspace. In other words, when talking about a metal kli, so that in order for the vessel to become tameh from the inside, it would have to not only go into its airspace, but it has to touch the actual wall of the kli. From the outside, also becomes tameh. If it touches the outside, it becomes tameh. If it goes inside, if the sheretz goes inside, it will make the kli contaminated. It will contaminate or make it tameh, but only if it touches the wall. However, regarding a kli cheres, an earthenware kli, so then even if it just goes simply into its airspace inside without touching the walls, it makes the inside tameh, but it does not make the outside tameh. Interestingly, just to note, if you look at Pasuk Membet, you'll see there's the word gachon over there. Gimel Chet Vav Nun. And the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin says that the Vav of Gachon is the middle letter of the Torah. That's just to note. The Gemara says Masechet Kiddushin. So basically, we know that this week's parasha, Parashat Shemini, is basically according to the way the Gemara Kiddushin calculates it. It's the middle of the Torah. The Vav is the middle letter. And towards the end of Aliyah, it says like this: V'lo titameu bahem v'nitmetim bam. At the end of Aliyah, regarding foods that one ingests, v'lo titameu bahem v'nitmetim bam. Don't become tameh with these animals, and then by there making ourselves tameh, because when negativity goes inside, when you ingest food that's tameh, so actually it has an effect on our spirituality, our understanding of Kedusha and spirituality. At the end of the pasuk, the end of it says, "V'yitem kedushim ki kadosh ani." In other words, regarding these dinim of Tumah v'Tahara also have an effect on us. If we keep them, v'lo titameu bahem, then we'll be kedushim. If we chas v'shalom bring them and they become in contact with us, either physically or from the outside of our body, or especially inside of our body, we ingest them, it's even worse, and then we become tameh. However, on the other hand, if we go on the right path and we eat animals that are kosher and we stay inside the Kedusha v'Tahara, v'yitem kedushim, then we'll be holy, ki kadosh ani.
Man, I wish we had time for everything that I have to show you. I'm sorry that we don't, because I had such great videos to show you, but time is not on our side today, and we need to move ahead because we've still got things to do, and we have to do this week's Haftarah. All right. Give me one moment here. All right, hold on. Here we are. This week's Haftarah comes from the book of Samuel, and it mentions how Uzzah was struck dead when he disrespectfully touched the Ark of the Covenant, reminiscent of Nadav and Avihu's death described in this week's Torah reading. The Holy Ark had been in storage in the house of Avinadav for many years, ever since the destruction of the tabernacle in Shiloh. Recently crowned King David HaMelech, decided to move the Ark to the new capital, Jerusalem. He had the Ark placed on a cart, transported amidst singing and dancing. Excuse me. A great festival. When the procession reached Goren Nachon, the oxen misstepped, and Uzzah, Avinadav's son, took hold of the ark to steady it, whereupon he instantly died. David was devastated, and he temporarily placed the ark in the home of Oved Edom, the Edomite, where it remained for 3 months. As the Torah teaches us, and it was told to David HaMelech, saying, Hashem has blessed the house of Oved Edom and all that belongs to him because of the ark of Hashem. And David went and brought the ark of Hashem from the house of Oved Edom into the city of David, Ir David, Jerusalem, with joy. It was brought to the city of David with great singing and dancing. And then David blessed and distributed presents to all the assembled Israelites. Now, why did he die? Well, Uzzah forgot that the ark, as it says in Torah, carried its carriers. When the tribe of Levi would carry the ark, they would be lifted in the air and were literally carried by the ark. If it carried its carriers, it could certainly carry itself. And therefore, since Uzzah did not have that confidence that the ark would take care of itself, that's why he didn't make it. Very simple, and that was the whole reason and the only reason. All right, let us go to the saying of Tehillim.
Al Yedei Amidas Tehillim Al Yedei Amidas Tehillim Al Yedei Amidas Tehillim Tisoyre Chavatzeles HaShoroin.
All right, you know the drill here. You know the drill. Let's go with chapters 23 and 122.
לדוד אדוני רואי לא אחסר בינוס תשע ירביצני על מי מנוחוס ינהלני נפשי שובב ינחני ומעגלי צדק למען שמו גם כי לך בגץ על מובס לא ירא כי אתה עמדי שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי תשענת ושמן ראשי כוסי רוויה אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בביס אדוני לאורך ימים.
שמע לישראל אבי שמחתי וימלמני ויסעלינו יני אלי איים דייסו יורע אלינו בשערייך ירושלים ירושלים הבנויה כאיש יחור עלי יחדיו ששמו שותים שבטי העדות לישראל להוידייס לשיים עלינו Shama yashavu chisais v'mishvat kisais levayis David shalu shalayim Yerushalayim yishvayu ayhavayich ahai Yerushalayim echayleich shava v'ayvena yisayich
All right, Tanya, today, the 26th day of Adar Shemini. Here we go.
Tanya thoughts for the 25th of Adar. This is why we want Mashiach. So the arrogance of material things that claim that they are absolutely crucial. I have to have. Tanya thoughts for the 26th of Adar. So to that frustrated Nefesh Elokis, we say, cheer up, little guy. Don't be annoyed with your Nefesh HaBahamis as gruff as it is. You're here to refine it. So don't resent it, embrace it. The Nefesh Elokis, you don't need any tikkun, any reordering. But you can benefit greatly from the process. It will make you better, stronger, closer to Hashem. The harder your assignment, the gruffer your animal soul, the greater your service, the more you do for Hashem.
Let's talk Tanya for the 26th day of the second Adar. In the last few days, we've explained that God has a singular desire, and that is that we should do mitzvahs, and we should also have kavanah. Those mitzvahs should be motivated by a love for Him and an awe of Him. At the same time, there are different levels of revelation of godliness when we do a mitzvah with kavanah, or we do a mitzvah without kavanah, with the intent or without the spiritual intent. And we also said that really it subdivides into four categories. And this parallels the fact that in the world also there are four different categories: doimim, tzemeach, chayim, medaber, which is the inanimate, vegetation, the animal kingdom, and human beings. And the reason why that there are four different categories in creation is because everything comes from the four letters of God's name. The same thing also, paralleling that, is the fact that there are four different types of mitzvahs with four different levels of energy, just like in the four categories in creation. Each one is unique in that it has a different level of divine energy, and that's because the mitzvahs also come from the four letters of God's name. So there are those mitzvahs that are on the level of the inanimate, those mitzvahs that are on the level of vegetation, those mitzvahs on the level of the animal, and those mitzvahs that are on the level of the human being. So let's start from the bottom. The lowest mitzvah is the act of a mitzvah which is done without any kavanah, without any intent whatsoever. That is a mitzvah which is on the level of a doimim, the inanimate. That's like a rock mitzvah. And just like in a rock, there's a very small level, a low voltage of divine energy, the amount of godliness that is revealed in a mitzvah act without any intent whatsoever is on the lowest level. The next level is a mitzvah which is a speech-related mitzvah. So a person said something, a person davened, a person prayed, a person studied Torah, a person said a blessing, and even if you had in mind the meaning of the words, but there was no kavanah, meaning it wasn't motivated by a love for God and an awe for God, so that is compared to tzemeach, to vegetation. You can't compare that to a physical act like affixing a mezuzah, because a physical act has no spiritual content to it whatsoever, as opposed to when we speak, as we know. When we speak, we reveal the spiritual within us, we reveal our thoughts and our feelings. So even though speech is an act, it's moving of the lips, but nevertheless, it has more energy than just an action mitzvah. But both of these, because essentially they are actions, we're talking here about the act of a mitzvah and the act of speaking. So these are both on the level of guf, on the level of body. And then you have two levels of mitzvah, both of which are on the level of neshama, of soul. And that is when a mitzvah is done with kavanah, but there are two different types of kavanah. The lower level of kavanah, the lower level of love of God and awe of God, is when a person leverages and taps into their innate love for God. What's called the Ava Mesuteres. We spoke about this at length in chapters 18 through 25 of Tanya. The idea that every one of us innately possesses a love for God and a desire to connect to Him. So when a person contemplates that love which they have and acts upon that, that is considered an animal mitzvah. Now, we're not trying to degrade the mitzvah. This is actually a high level of kavanah, but the similarity between that type of mitzvah and an animal is in that an animal is impulsive and instinctive. An animal doesn't use, its brain is not the primary force. Its main force is its nature. And again, its impulses, its instincts. So when a person is using the love which is instinctive and inherent and natural to that person, that is a level of kavanah, but that is a lower level of kavanah, similar to the animal. The highest level of kavanah is when a person uses their mind to generate feelings, to generate love for God, to generate an awe for God. This is a human mitzvah, because a human being is characterized by their intellect and their ability to make choices. And when a person actually uses their intellect and chooses to create a new feeling for God, that is the highest level of kavanah possible, the level of the human being. So we have 4 levels of mitzvahs, and in each mitzvah, in each type of mitzvah, we have a corresponding degree of godliness that can be revealed in that mitzvah. And obviously, we're always striving to do a mitzvah on as high a level as possible. Now, we are going to continue this conversation about the different levels of mitzvah and the value of kavanah in the following chapter, which is chapter 39. But in order to have a better appreciation for the value of kavanah and the different levels of kavanah and a mitzvah, we're going to need to take a little break, and we're going to have to talk about the different levels of Gan Eden, the different levels of paradise which the soul experiences after it departs from the body. And we'll start on that, God willing, tomorrow.
Come on. All right, and that takes the space up. All right, we are talking about cleaning for Pesach and how you don't need to move all those heavy, ridiculous objects. Now, it is customary to avoid koshering utensils where possible and instead use dedicated and designated utensils, especially exclusively for Pesach. Now, if koshering is to be performed, it should be done under the guidance of one who is well versed in the relevant halachas. Dishwashers, regular ovens, continuous cleaning ovens, toaster ovens, microwave ovens, grills, barbecues that were used with chametz cannot be koshered or used for Pesach. Now, self-cleaning ovens, which reach a minimum of 480 degrees, may be koshered by running it through a full clean cycle. The oven door and seals should be cleaned well beforehand. For gas cooktops, the grates are koshered through libum gamur, which is heating the grates until they glow red hot in the dark. The burners, the drip trays, the cooktop surface beneath the grates are koshered by cleaning them thoroughly, after which a heating with a blowtorch, libum kal, until the other side is hot enough to scorch paper, is performed. One way to achieve all this is by turning on all the burners at the highest and covering the entire cooktop with a blech until the grates glow red hot, by which time the other components of the cooktop will have reached the heat of libum kal. Now, do not leave the stove unattended when koshering. Also, ensure adequate ventilation, as there will be smoke from the stuff that's burning off. Now, for standard electric cooktops, where the burner coils are exposed, the coils are koshered through libum gamur, turning them to the highest setting until they glow red hot, while the burners, drip trays, and cooktop surface are koshered by cleaning them thoroughly, after which libum kal, again, blow torch on one side until they glow. If the surface cannot be koshered through libum kal, in other words, if it's made of glass or enamel, it can be covered with a durable and heat-proof covering or lining. Cooktop knobs and backsplashes should be cleaned and lined with foil. Now, induction burners and electric smooth tops, where the burner coils lie beneath a flat ceramic glass surface, are not koshered nor used for Pesach. The fan, the hood, other areas above the stove and oven should be cleaned and ideally covered during the steam that circulates when cooking. Now, I don't cook. I covered my stovetop and I use portable burners, induction burners that we have for Pesach. And we will talk more about what can and cannot be koshered on Sunday, God willing. Here's a quick video. I'm hoping.
Let's make Pesach egg rolls. The outside wrapper is going to be an egg mixture. I'm using 6 eggs here and 3 tablespoons of potato starch. Then I mix it up. You have to mix it up real good to get those clumps out. Fill up about a half a ladle and then let it set for maybe 10 seconds Flip it. Let's move on to the inside. We're gonna have onions, we're gonna have peppers, we're gonna add in some mushrooms, then we're gonna add in some cabbage. Check this out. We're gonna saute it, bring it all together. Then we're gonna mix in some chicken. We're gonna let it saute, cook out a little bit. You don't want it to be too wet. Then we're gonna add a little bit into the egg mixture and we're gonna roll it up. The trick here is to roll it really tight to make it good. And look, there it goes. Fill up a pan with oil and let it sit just like this, a little on one side, a little on the other side. It's gonna look just like this, perfect crispy texture. Made a little dipping sauce, kosher for Passover egg rolls.
All right. You like that? That was Thruly Cooks. All right. Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam is up next.
No, it's not impossible that Rebbe did say, just study Rambam each and every day.
All right.
I'll never miss my daily Rambam. My Rebbe so desires. I'm not busy or too tired when I learn Rambam connected. I remain, I am a link in the Rebbe's golden chain.
Baruch Hashem, it's day number 10 of our daily study of the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvahs, and today we have 4 mitzvahs. They're all prohibitions, and they all correspond to Hilchas Deis, the laws of having a good character and good interpersonal relationships. That's what we're studying in the 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah. And we're actually finishing up those halachas today in the 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah. Okay, so we have 4 mitzvahs. They're all prohibitions, all corresponding to Hilchas Deis. Here we go. The first mitzvah, negative commandment 256, not to mistreat the widows and the orphans. They are vulnerable, so don't start up with them. And also, Hashem, he takes their side, so it's not going to be good for you if you mess with the widows and the orphans. And besides that, it's not allowed. You're not allowed to do it. Okay, that's negative commandment 256. Negative commandment 301, gossip. Gossip. Okay. So what if it's true? What if it's true, but it's not a lie? I'm not lying. It's true. It doesn't matter. Don't talk about it. You don't have to talk about it, even if it's true. Oh, what if it's not negative? Maybe it's just benign. Maybe it's just a neutral piece of information. Nevertheless, don't talk about it. Gossip means just don't talk about other people. And by the way, if you learn a lot of Torah, then you have what to talk about other than talking about people. So when you're learning Sefer Mitzvahs every day, you can talk about that. And then you'll find interesting conversations to have that don't involve gossip. Okay. And then we have 2 negative commandments that go together because they're actually from the same verse. Now, remember yesterday we had 3 mitzvahs that all came from the same verse, which was, if you remember, Leviticus 19:17, Vayikra Yud Tes Yud Zayin. Well, funny enough, we have 2 mitzvahs today that are also from one verse, and it's the very next verse. The very next verse in the Torah. So yesterday we had 3 mitzvahs from Leviticus 19:17. Today we have 2 mitzvahs that are both from Leviticus 19:18, from Vayikra Yud Tes Yud Ches. So the way it says it over there is Loisikaim v'loisitor, don't take revenge nor bear a grudge, es b'nei amecha, against the members of your people. You should rather love your fellow as yourself. I am the Lord. And love your fellow as yourself, that's a positive commandment that we had a couple days ago already. But let's talk about these 2 prohibitions. Leisikaim v'leisiter, don't take revenge or bear a grudge. What's the difference between those 2? Because they're 2 separate mitzvahs. Negative commandment 304 is don't take revenge. Negative commandment 305 is don't bear a grudge. So the classic example that's given is a guy asks his neighbor to borrow a tool. He says, could I borrow your hammer, whatever it is? And the neighbor says, no, I'm not going to give it to you. Okay, so the next day, the neighbor comes over and says, could I borrow your tool? And the guy says, no, you didn't give me. When I wanted to borrow your tool, you said no to me. So on principle, I'm saying no to you. I'm just giving you back what you gave to me. I'm treating you the way you treated me. That is called revenge, and it's a prohibition. You're not allowed to do it. Okay. what is the other mitzvah, though, bearing a grudge? That's a little more subtle. A guy goes to his neighbor and says, could I borrow your tool? And he says, no, I'm not going to give it to you. The next day, the neighbor who refused to do the favor previously comes over and he says, could I borrow your tool? And the guy says to his neighbor, sure, by all means, I will lend you my tool. Not like you who didn't lend me your tool yesterday when I asked you. So it's a little more passive aggressive, right? He lends him the tool, but he has to let him know, not like you who didn't lend me the tool. And that's called harboring a grudge, literally keeping it, holding on to the feeling in your heart. Let it go. Get over those resentments. Let them go. You know, resentment is a re-sentiment, a re-feeling. It's like, don't re-feel it. Feel it. You're human. Fine. Now drop it. Drop it and move on. And yeah, that's the way to be. That's the Torah way to be. And not just because it's healthier. It is healthier, but it's actually a commandment. You're not allowed to bear the grudge. And if you're having trouble with actually keeping this mitzvah, so you have to learn a lot of Chassidus where it explains to you how to reframe it and to understand it and to view the whole thing from a lens of Hashgacha Pratis and divine providence, and then you'll be able to move on and embrace it even. Okay, we are going to move into some new mitzvahs tomorrow. We have Hilchos Talmud Torah coming up, and we're going to have new mitzvahs, a new subject matter. Join us tomorrow.
Today we study 4 negative mitzvahs. Negative mitzvah 256 is the prohibition against acting harshly with widows and orphans. This applies both to the way we speak with them as well as to the way that we interact with them. Negative mitzvah 301 is the prohibition against gossiping. This applies both to saying true things as well as to spreading false rumors. Negative mitzvah 304 is the prohibition against taking revenge. This is described with an example where on Sunday, Reuven does not want to lend something to Shimon. And then on Monday, when Reuven needs to borrow something from Shimon, Shimon tells Reuven, I'm not going to lend it to you the same way you didn't lend it to me. That's revenge. Negative mitzvah 305 is the prohibition against bearing a grudge even without taking revenge. This is described with an example where on Sunday, Reuven does not want to lend something to Shimon, and then on Monday, when Reuven wants to borrow from Shimon, Shimon tells Reuven, here you go, I'm not going to be like you who didn't lend it to me, I'm going to lend it to you. That's called bearing a grudge.
All right. And that takes us to matters of Mashiach.
והוא גואלנו, משיח צדקנו, הרבי מלובביץ' מלך המשיח, הרבי מלובביץ'.
All right, you remember that creep? Yeah, you know his name. Begins with a hey. Yeah. That guy. Well, the Medrash gives a parable for the story of Haman's plot. A bird once flew by the seashore, started to draw water out of the sea with its beak and fling it onto the ground, thinking that she could dry up the sea. God exclaimed, such a feat is impossible. And that's what happened with Haman. Haman thought he could dry up the Jewish people's connection to Hashem through secularization and assimilation. He further thought that if he could draw them completely away from Torah and godliness. But Hashem said, I can't exchange my people for any other nation, no matter how far they may stray. They remain Hashem's children, and a father always comes to his child's rescue. Similarly, this essential bond with Hashem ensures our liberation from exile and the coming of Mashiach. Whenever the Rebbe mentions the Geula hamitis v'ashleina, the future redemption, he immediately adds, may it come speedily in our days. We have to feel a sense of immediacy for bringing the Geula. We mustn't think about it, speak about it, or we must think about it, speak about it, and do whatever we can to hasten Mashiach's coming, again, speedily in our days. All right, let's go right down to bringing heaven to earth. Just do want to mention in a situation where you need to call Hatzalah, call Hatzalah, even Shabbos and NissanThe, and again, even if you see a hate crime or you, God forbid, are the victim of a hate crime, you need to report that on not to 911 on Shabbos. All right. Nothing is higher than delight. All our desires in music, every thought, word, all that we do emerge from our sense of pleasure. Our obsessive persistence for the most elegant and the most delightful. So too with Hashem's creation. The essence of each thing, from the tiny atom to a galaxy, from the majesty of the mountain peak to the depths of the human heart, is Hashem's delight in the thing as it plays its tune with the entire symphony of parts. Hidden in the Torah for us to find is the key to that delight, the secrets to unlock the purpose and place of each thing. Use something for its purpose, direct it to its seat in the orchestra, and the brilliant glow of the Creator's delight is redeemed. Was it the orchestra last night? All right. You want to talk about it more? Come to me on social media. Any of the Actors Rabbis groups at Clubhouse, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, or theactorsrabbi.com.
Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesronan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos boem nefesh kol chai baruch chai ha'olamim.
All right, I didn't get a chance to play Laser Brooks' video. It is just right now. Watch
מי שעושו ניסים אליו עשינו וגואלו יסו מעבדוס לחירות ויגאלו יסונו בקורוי ואוהבי יקבל מדוכן מארבע כנפוי סורס חברים כל ישראל ונוי מרומי לבילום פבילום מי לבילום ראש חודש ניסון ביום השלישי אבא עלינו ועל כל ישראל לטובו יחדשהו הקדוש ברוך הוא עלינו ועל כל עמוי בית ישראל בכל מקום שם לטובו ולברוכו. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you, Cantor Brook. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. I am so glad that you were with us this week. Thank you to my Patreon sponsors, Pest Pro Ridal, Tarsay Norkids, Dina D Design, Bracha Biederman, Avi G, Reza Musavi, all of you. Thank you so much Remember, candle lighting is at 7:07. If you'd like to know when candle lighting is in your neck of the woods, go to breakfastwithelli.live/Shabbos. Or better yet, breakfastwithelli.live/new computer, and you can help us in our campaign to get our new computer. Patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, breakfastwithelli.live/new computer. Shabbos begins at 7:07. It ends at 8:08 tomorrow night. It is Parshas HaChodesh. We read of the first mitzvah on the new month. Monday night is Rosh Chodesh. Yeah. I know, it's coming up. The month of Nissan is coming up, and it takes no prisoners. It's, it's coming up. All right. And with these last few days of the month of Elul, let's get our simcha on. All right. Parshas HaChodesh, Shabbos Mevarchim, the Molad at 10:57 p.m. with 7 chalakim. Anything else you need to know or you have any questions about, please contact me. I am around all day getting prepared for Shabbos. Thank you for being here. Go out and do something nice, something good for someone today, this 26th day of Adar. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness to you. Draw a fellow close, and Hashem will draw you close to him. If you are someone that's received one of my invitations to come for a Pesach Seder, please. Monday night has filled up, but Tuesday night is still open. We have a few seats left, so please contact me as soon as possible. We are always looking for new people, and again, if there's an emergency and somebody needs a place to go Monday night, we'll make room. It just works out that way. All right. I had a video for you. Now I'm not sure that it's going to play, so let's just put it in and see. Have a great and glorious day. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow. Hashem will have affection for you. Do a kindness for a fellow. Hashem will do a kindness for you. Draw a fellow close. Hashem will draw you close to him. I will see you, God willing, on Sunday. Have a great Shabbos, good Mevarchim, and I will talk to you then. Thanks for being here. Of course, this isn't working. All right, let's see what we can do to get this to work. I know it's frustrating. Think how I feel. Just think how I feel. Just getting the video. Here we go. Hopefully. If not, we'll just pop another one in. All right, let's try that. Really need that new computer, folks.
Ay, 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 Shabbos KOSHER.
Bring them home. We've been praying for so long, so Abba, please bring them home. Bring them home. Please bring them home. We've been praying for so long, so Abba, please bring them home. We're coming home. We're almost home.